Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Black Health and Wealth Show. I'm your host, Kevin Boyette, and today I am here and honored to be with J.R. Fenwick, founder, CEO of Flip That Stock and Hold That Stock, and also the author of the book, How I Quit My $100,000 a Year Job. Mr. Fenwick, welcome.
Thank you.
And I want to thank one of our viewers, Wendell Flip Russell, for helping us to get Mr. Fenwick here today. Flip, thank you. We greatly appreciate it. So, we're here to talk about your journey.
Oh,
here to talk about your
what
journey.
a journey it's been, too.
Okay. So I know that Flip That Stock is something that's been around for a couple of years now.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so how did you get started doing this? Did you go to school for finance?
Right.
I know you're a graduate of Hampton.
Absolutely.
I'm a bison from Howard, but we're not going to hold that.
We're not going to go there.
We're not going to have that battle.
Okay.
So, but how did you get started with this?
Well, this is really interesting. I didn't have a background in finance or business. I didn't even go to school for that. My father was a doctor, mother was a nurse. I ended up getting a degree in nursing pre-med. Okay. And I graduated from Hampton University, and I actually ended up going to work in a hospital in D.C. And during that time point, I was trying to kind of figure out, did I really want to go into medical school and go that route? Or did I want to do something else? And I really didn't want to go into medical school at that time. And I knew that if you're going to do that, it takes a big commitment. But one of my passions was always music, and I had been playing guitar since I was maybe about 7 years old. And I really wanted to pursue that. So what I did was I actually went and auditioned for Showtime at the Apollo. You remember this? Yeah. I tell my kids, I said, that's the original talent show before American Idol and X Factor and all these other ones.
The Voice and those other shows.
Yeah, the long list goes on. I said, before all of that, there was Showtime at the Apollo. And they used to say, if you can make it on Showtime at the Apollo, you can make it anywhere. Right. So I actually ended up going on Showtime and actually tying for first place. And from there, I went and I opened up a recording studio. I had bought all this equipment. A lot of this stuff wasn't planned. It's kind of crazy how this journey unfolded, but I bought all this equipment to make a record, and my brother comes over one day and he's like, you got all this equipment, why don't you start a little business, let people come in and you produce them and record them? So I was like, that's a good idea. So I started doing that, and next thing you know, this little studio started blowing up, and I'm like, wow, it just was unbelievable, the feeling of doing what I love and making money. Mm-hmm. Now, at the same time, I had, let me back up a little bit, I had left the hospital where I was working, and I went into corporate America. I had gone into pharmaceutical sales. And I was kind of liking that at first too, mainly because of the amount of money they were paying, 6 figures, and they're giving you the company car and all this stuff.
All the bonuses.
All the bonuses.
Yeah.
But I started calculating what I'm generating and what I'm making. Mm-hmm. And here's an interesting thing. Their calculations, believe this or not, their calculations and my calculations were a little bit different.
It never adds up.
Didn't add up. So I was like, wait a minute. I'm helping you generate tens of millions of dollars, and even though I'm making 6 figures, it's just not adding up. So that's when I said, I'm going to take each of my passions. My goal is to get up every single day excited about what I'm doing. And I'm going to figure out a way to make money from my passions. So I started the recording studio, started making money from that. Years later, I got involved in the martial arts. I grew up watching Bruce Lee like many of us. I always wanted to learn it. And lo and behold, I had a friend introduced me to the martial arts. I got my black belt in that. People would start asking, if somebody did this, what would you do? And so I went and I made a little video, a little self-defense video, started a course, started teaching that. So now I had 2 passions that,
we're generating income.
You're generating income, and I'm like, this is it's unbelievable. It just doesn't get any better than this, to get up every day, excited about what you're doing. So along the way, and there's several, other things in there, but along the way, I was looking for a piece of equipment for my recording studio. It was a rare piece of, like a little piano module. And I couldn't find it anywhere. And finally, I saw a guy had an ad in a newspaper in Baltimore for this piece of equipment. So I went and I met him, I bought the equipment, and we just hit it off. Became really good friends. He was a musician, I was a musician. We knew about all this equipment and stuff. And literally 2 years later, after we had met, out of the clear blue sky, he says to me, "You ever trade in the stock market?" I'm like, "No, I don't know anything about the stock market." Not only do I not know anything about the stock market, I'm not interested. Right?
Yeah.
So you know, I'm into the music, my you know, martial arts and this, that, and the other. So for the next 2 years, I mean, he was on me. You gotta learn about the stock market. Everything runs through the stock market. I mean, you know, just on and on and on. So he's just wearing me down. And so literally one day, we're getting ready to go to a Super Bowl party, and he came over to ride with me. And he comes in, and before we walk out the door, he says, "Hold on." He opens his bag and drops these 2 big envelopes on my desk. I had no idea it was in envelopes. We hadn't been talking about the stock market that day at all, which was unusual. So he said, "Open them." So I open them, not knowing what's in them. I open them up, and it's his account statement for his stock market portfolio, over $1 million. I'm stunned. And all I kept thinking in my head was, how did you do this? How did you do this? And I'll never forget him saying, "You want to learn now?" And I'm like, "Well, you don't warn me down for 2 years, and now you show me this." Absolutely. So I'm the type of person that, just like when I started my studio, people used to ask me, you know, "Did you go to school?" They come and see all this equipment and all these wires. No, I just read a lot of books and went to seminars. When I want to learn something, I dive in, and I lock on like a vice grip. So we go to the Super Bowl party. I couldn't even tell you who played. All I want to do, I want to learn the stock market. I want to learn the stock market. So after that, he started teaching me. I started signing up for courses. I even hired a personal coach, and I just started learning. And it's just I was just fascinated. So that's how I ended up getting involved in the stock market, and haven't looked back since.
Okay, so that's how you got started. But I know that there are a lot of myths, preconceived notions, things like that about the stock market.
Right.
So can you dispel some of those for the viewers out there?
Yeah.
So that,
and some of those I was buying into too, which is when he kept asking me, you know, "You need to get in it, you know, do you want to get in?" I'm like, "No," because you know, you have this notion that that you have to have millions of dollars to get in the stock market. Not true. Most people who are in the stock market, you know, are quite frankly older white guys, and you know, and so people have the misconception that if you don't fit that particular description or stereotype, you can't get involved in the stock market. Another one is that you have to have a certain type of degree from college, or a certain certification. You have to have a Harvard MBA.
or Series 7 license.
Yeah. I'm shocked how many people believe that just to buy stocks for yourself. So these are some of the myths that I hear, or it's just too complicated. You know, I'm going to have to know calculus, geometry, and advanced calculus and geometry, and all these fancy formulas to do it, and it's just not true.
So out of all that, what's the one thing that people would be shocked about in regards to the stock market?
I was actually speaking to a large group that I was invited to speak to, and I was actually invited by a pastor to speak to his congregation. He was so blown away by Flip That Stock that he said, "Our congregation needs to learn this. This is something we need to put into our finance and wealth ministry." And so I stood before the congregation and I said, "Would you believe that you can make money when the price of a stock goes down?" Half the audience said no. And then I said, "So you believe that I'd stand in front of you at a church and lie and tell you that?" And they still said, "No, we don't believe it," because nobody's heard of that. Now it's common knowledge on Wall Street, and the strategies and the techniques of how to do it. But the minister at that point hopped up because he had just spent $20,000 on a course that taught him what I was teaching. And he took the mic and he said, "Listen, folks, you better listen to what JR is telling you, because I'm telling you he's telling the truth." And I would not have invited him if it. So I think that's probably the biggest shocking thing, is that, you know, most people have heard you can buy a stock low and sell it high, but you can also make money when the price goes down. I'd probably say that's the number one thing that's shocking.